Hello, friends. We are live. How are you? This is Linda Downey here, as you can see on the screen. And if you're catching this live, I would love for you to say hello. Tell me where you're watching from, or if you're watching the replay, still say hello and let me know where you're watching from. If you're new to my world, if you're just catching this on your stream at some point, either live or the replay, my name is Linda Downey. I work with people, I work primarily with women to overcome stress, overwhelm, burnout, help them recover from painful past experiences like divorce or loss, and create for their lives going forward a life that they love to live. So that's who I am, is really a transformational health and spiritual coach. My background is in health and wellness. And this issue of stress and anxiety certainly affects our mental health, and it also affects our physical health. So this conversation, I think, if you kind of feel like you're always stressed, you're always kind of on guard, but you also have this perception that this is normal. This is how people live. This is how my life is. You're not alone. A lot of people feel that way, and that has a lot to do with our culture and how our schedules run and the things that we value in our culture. But just because it's common does not mean it's normal for what your body needs and what your spirit needs. So I wanted to go over a couple of things with you tonight that you may not realize are signs of anxiety. You may just think, this is how I am, or this is what I do. But these are signs that your body and your nervous system are stuck in, we call it an upregulated or a stressed out state. And in another conversation, we'll go over more about the nervous system. But for tonight, just know certain behaviors are signs that you're stuck in anxiety. So you may already know you're stuck in anxiety, or you may not think you are. You may think that this is, as I said, just something that's normal. But let me talk about these. And just as we're going through the conversation, definitely drop me any comments or questions that you have. This is streaming in multiple places, so I'm not sure that I can see a question from every location, but I will go back later. If I don't respond, it means I'm not seeing it. But definitely ask any questions. And I want you to apply the conversation to you and your life, like throughout your day on a daily basis. What comes up for you? What do you notice? And see if this is applicable to you. Okay. And we'll talk about at the end, if we don't go too long, we'll talk about, why does this happen? Why do these patterns get created? And what you can do to get yourself and your body into a more calm state, a more peaceful state. That's where your body heals. If you're sick, if you have bacteria, viruses, if you have things that challenge your immune system, you cannot heal when you're stuck in a stress state. It just doesn't allow the body to do that. So from a physical health point of view, it's important to be able to recognize when your body is in stress and anxiety, when your body is not. And it may be a long time since your body has not been in a stressed and anxious state. That's also really common. This was actually generated by a conversation I was having with a client this week. And she was saying things like, well, isn't everybody like this? Isn't this just how normal life is? And it made me think about how I used to be in my life, like just going, and on autopilot to revved up. And it was like, well, this is life. This is how we're supposed to be, but it's not. Okay, so let's dive into these common behaviors that you may or may not be aware of. The first one is overthinking and over preparing for some future event. So if you're a person that takes a lot of time to think about every possible scenario and everything that could go wrong, and even after you've done that once, you keep going over it and over it in your head. So let's say you have something next week that's going to happen, or you're in a situation and you have to make some decisions, and you keep going over and over in your head. You keep over preparing for the event next week, making lists, doing things ahead of time, preparing for any possible outcome. Going on vacation. Going on vacation could and should be like a restful thing, right? It's vacation. But a lot of people spend so much time over preparing and overpacking and worrying about it that they don't really ever get the vacation part. They go away on a trip and their location is different, but they're still very stressed in the midst of it. So that would be one thing, over preparing and overthinking, to the point even that now you've created more stress for yourself, like that thought process. That's what ends up happening, is you stay stuck in a loop of worrying about what could happen. Okay, another one is, and this kind of correlates, but a desire for control. So that might just mean even throughout the day, having to control the schedule, everybody's schedule in your household, having to control the outcomes, having to control how other people are managing their lives. When our children are very little, our job is to teach them how to manage their life. But as they grow, a lot of times women really stay in this hyper-controlled space for a couple of reasons. But one is really that oftentimes, if you look back into your past, far back, even as far as your childhood, when we have environments that feel very chaotic, when we didn't know what was going to happen when we got home. I grew up in an alcoholic household, and I was always unsure when the end of the school day was coming. And I'm talking 5th grade, 6th grade. I would start to watch the clock, 2:00, 2:30, and I would start to get nervous. I remember feeling my stomach sort of closing up. I would get nervous about going home because I didn't know what I could expect when I was going home. It was often very chaotic. And so when we have those experiences, especially when we have them for long periods of time, then we learn that we need to take control. We want to create a sense of safety. We want to create a sense of control, which is why we're trying to hyperly control everybody else and every situation. But that keeps us in a hypervigilant state, which is what we learned to be hypervigilant when we were very young. And it keeps us, always focused on and always at the ready. So never allowing us to relax. Okay, that was the second one. The third one, which kind of goes along with the control, is controlling our emotions. So it's not only controlling what other people are doing, but it's controlling our emotions. I've got to be strong. I've got to hold it together. I can't let people see when I'm feeling like it's too much or when I'm feeling overwhelmed. This even applies to, or maybe especially, not even, but especially applies to grief. If you don't know anything about me, I lost my daughter 5 years ago. My daughter passed when she was 15 years old. So a lot of people connect with me over the conversation of grief and loss, because people who know about that in my story, and they'll reach out and they'll say, I've also lost someone, or I've also lost a child, or they'll say, how do you get through that? Or how do I stay strong for my other children? And what I learned in my situation, in my experience, was actually the freedom to feel the grief. The freedom to feel the grief gave my son permission for him to feel his grief. It gave permission to the other people around me, because oftentimes when someone is experiencing grief, people around them are uncomfortable with that, with the emotion, and want to try to make it better. So for grief or any other emotions that we decide are negative, anger, things like that, we don't want to feel it. And so we try to control that, or we try to hide it from other people. That keeps us in a stressed and anxious state. And it's actually learning to accept and feel your emotions that allows your body to go back into peace. If you're not going to let yourself really express them, and I'm talking about expressing them appropriately, right? Especially something like anger. People have all kinds of ways of expressing their anger, and a lot of them are inappropriate. But when we allow ourselves to acknowledge the emotion, whatever it is, and to express it, now you give your body the opportunity and the chance to go back to a peaceful state. So if you're just coming in, I see more people are joining, and welcome. I'm so glad that you're popping in to listen to this conversation for a few minutes tonight. Please say hello. But we're talking about some common behaviors or practices that people have that are actually signs that they're stressed and they're anxious, and they may not realize that that's what's really behind the scenes. That's what's going on. It may just feel like normal life, or this is what I do, or this is how I've learned to do life. And the reason why it's helpful to know, no, this is anxiety showing up. This is a nervous system that's stressed showing up in this situation, is because if you don't know that, then you may not know that your nervous system needs some help returning back to rest and peace. And you may not realize that a stressed nervous system is going to affect your health. You may not realize that a stressed nervous system actually shifts how your brain thinks. Different parts of the brain take over. And the parts of the brain that take over when we're stressed, when we're hyper vigilant on a problem, those parts of the brain are less capable of communicating with other people. So our communication gets hampered. You may know that when you're stressed. You don't do well if you're having an argument with your partner. If you can calm yourself down, then you can handle the issue that's being discussed, but not when you're stressed. So communication is impacted, problem solving is impacted, our ability to be creative, our body's physical ability to heal from anything, any illness that you have, any even things like cancer. If you want to give your immune system its best shot with big illnesses, you need to get your body into a peaceful state, because your immune system cannot do its job when it's stressed. So that's why we're talking about all these things as I'm seeing people jump on. And I'm glad that you're here. Again, please say hello. So we talked about needing to overthink and over prepare for every situation. We talked about control, and that could be controlling everybody, not just yourself or your own situations, but all the people in your household, or trying to control how your workers do their job, your coworkers, if you work outside the home, but always feeling like you have to step in and control. And then we just finished talking about emotions and how important it is to allow your emotions to be felt and expressed, rather than also extending that control to your emotions. Okay. The next thing is kind of the opposite of controlling everything, would be relying on everybody else's opinions and judgments for your actions. So what I'm saying with that is, you may be very capable of making great decisions. You may be very capable of executing things, but you don't believe it. You don't trust yourself and the decisions that you make. So you're constantly asking for other people's opinions. Well, what do you think I should do about this? You need to have assurance from other people that what you're doing is a good idea. So it's kind of the opposite of being the one who needs to be in control. It's kind of like, I'm not sure at all. I need somebody else to tell me. This was me when I was very, very young, in my 20s. And I had some jobs that were managerial level jobs where I was in charge of a team of people, like in my late 20s. And I constantly asked other people, well, what should I do about this? How should I handle this situation? And I'm not talking about the normal, like, learning curve of a new job, or when you're in a new situation, or asking a trusted friend for their opinion. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, on a regular basis, being so uncertain of your own decisions and your own ability that you're always relying on that opinion. And if you feel like you're getting judged and it's not in agreement with the action that you took, you feel bad and you go over and over and over it in your head, rather than saying, okay, that's what you would do, well, I'm doing this, kind of thing. So again, that's the opposite of feeling like you need to control, but both are signs that you are stuck in anxiety and in stress, like in a constant state of being stressed. That's how you're perceiving your life and your world, is from a stressed place. Okay. The next one, this is kind of interesting, I think, but needing to have certain items with you, like every time you leave the house. And if you forget that item, and the first thing that comes to my head would be like a cell phone, but we're all like that, right? Like, oh my God, where's my cell phone? But having that kind of response about other things that probably we don't access in the same way as a cell phone. Like it could be a certain chapstick that you always have in your pocket. It could be a water bottle. It could be just any item that you regularly take out of the house with you. And what I sort of think of is like the adult version of a binky or your security blanket, but needing those things. And then if you forget or you rush out of the house, it really wrecks your day. Like you feel off kilter, you're upset about it. I can't believe I forgot that. Your mind keeps going back to that throughout the day. So for whatever reason, that thing became a sense of security for you because you haven't been able to cultivate like security and safety within yourself without those items. So that's another place that anxiety and stress can show up. And then the last one that I wanted to talk about tonight is feeling so foreign around relaxing that you don't even know how to do it. So when you actually get calm and relaxed, it's like something's wrong. Or you settle down and maybe from the outside it looks like you're calm and relaxed, like maybe you sit down with your family to watch TV. However, there's no just resting and being. There's three other things going on. You're responding to some emails. You're maybe sitting there and doing some sewing or other things because it's a foreign concept to just sit and relax without getting something done. You have to get something done. So when I introduced myself at the beginning of this, what I mentioned is that I work primarily with women. Certainly in my groups, I work with women. Only in my groups. I will work with some men one-on-one. But what I've noticed so predominantly with the women that I've worked with is the need to be doing all the time. So being stuck in a doingness, which is a sympathetic state, or an action, an activated state. So the flip side of that is being able to just being able to rest, being able to sit and relax and know that you're okay, even though you're sitting and relaxing, to know that you're still worthy and valuable. Because a lot of times what's in the background is if I'm not producing something for someone, if I'm not getting something done, I'm not really showing up with how valuable I am. A lot of stay-at-home moms might feel that way for various reasons, or women who work outside the home, when they come home feeling somewhat guilty that they've been gone at work, so they have to show up and work extra hard while they're home. So there's a couple of reasons that could be in the background, right? But the bottom line is, I don't even know how to just rest and be. And when I do have nothing to do, it feels really uncomfortable. It feels really like there's something wrong here. I feel guilty. I feel upset about it. Oh, hi, Shannon. Shannon says this so resonates with me. Yeah, it's a really common one. Today on a group call, one of my clients is going through a divorce, and her kids are teenagers and up, late teens, and she's been a stay-at-home mom. And so because of the living situation and the age of the kids, what she's been doing for years is not happening, right? She just doesn't have those things filling her day. And yes, going through a divorce is very stressful. And there's, you know what it is? There's emotions to process with that. There's grief over the ending of a marriage. There's grief over what the kids are feeling. There's grief in ourselves for our own loss in the marriage, right? And then all of the other things that could be there, betrayal, anger, all of that. When you don't have all these things to take care of and you just be, now those emotions come up. And for a lot of us, a lot of women, we've been shoving emotions down underneath the doingness of what we have to get done. So when we take that doingness away, it's like all there is to notice, and it's uncomfortable. And grief comes up, and then we're crying, and we think something's wrong because we're crying. There's nothing wrong. When we are grieving, when a marriage ends, grief is there. And when we are grieving, tears come up. But we're so used to shoving them down, and we're so used to doing things and we haven't let it come up, that it feels so uncomfortable. So that's more of an extreme. I actually was really intending when I got into this one to just talk about on a daily basis. Yes, all the things, Shannon says, all the things that definitely keep the emotions at bay. Yeah, that's what we do, is we keep so busy so we don't have to feel. And we don't have to feel. And we probably started doing that years and years and years ago when we were very, very young. Probably we got the message it wasn't okay to feel. Either, I don't know, things that I heard in my family, in my household were, if you want to be upset, I'll give you something to cry about. That one. So then, like, okay, let me not show that I'm upset because I don't want to get something more. It might also be, it doesn't matter. The children are seen or not heard, like a version of that. It doesn't matter what you think. We're the grown-ups. We say what's happening. Sorry if you don't like it. When you grow up and have your own house, you can do it your way. Tough if you don't like it. Some version of that. So we got the message that how we were feeling was not okay, and there was no space for it to be expressed. That's one thing that happens. Another thing that happens is other people, there's big issues in the household. Maybe there's financial issues. Maybe there's a health issue. Maybe the marriage, our parents' marriage, is on the rocks. But whatever it is, we understand that there's something big, and that needs to take precedence. So what I think and feel, I'm going to shove it down and be quiet about, because I don't want to add to the stress. I don't want to make it worse. I'm even trying probably to make it better. When a child is trying to make the household better by governing their own behavior and keeping their own needs closed off, that sets up a pattern into adulthood with other relationships, with our romantic relationships. It sets up a pattern at work too, of how we deal with everything, and what we learn is the way to make it work. But what happens is we're exhausted. We're exhausted, we're resentful that our needs aren't getting met. There's a lot of unexpressed anger, or expressed in inappropriate ways, possibly. Yes, Shannon. Yeah. So Shannon, if you get nothing else from this conversation, I hope you feel like, okay, it's not just me. If somebody that I don't even know is speaking about this and it sounds exactly like my life, then you should know that it's very common. It's not normal, which I started the conversation with. It's not normal for our bodies to stay in that state, normal in how we're designed, but it is common. But we notice the fallout from it. We notice the impact. And so, Shannon, you don't have to type this in, but think about it for yourself. What's the impact for you of all of these things, or any one of these that resonated with you? What's the impact on how rested you feel? What's the impact on the experience of your life being joyful? How often have you felt joy lately? What's the impact on your relationships and you being kind of shut down, not expressing your emotions, needing to feel in control or uncertain, whichever way it resonated with you? How does that show up in your really important relationships? How authentic are you in expressing what you need and what you want, so that you give the other people a chance to even know you and what you need and what you want, and you give yourself a chance to feel like you're fully self-expressing yourself? So take a look at all of the impact and the impact on your physical body. How well do you sleep? Can your body, you know, handle illnesses? How about weight? Is your body able to stay at a good, healthy weight? A lot of times we hold weight in the same way that we hold those emotions and we clamp down on everything. The body holds on to weight in the same way. And it's not until we start to release the emotions and release these patterns that the physical body can release the weight. The physical body is the physical representation of the energy and the emotions and the thoughts that we're having. It actually gets expressed very visibly in our physical body. So I'm glad that this resonated with some of you. I love that you're here listening. I would love, excuse me, for you to type in anything that you know about, that you've seen for yourself. And if you want to have some tools around this, there's a lot of different ways that I work with people. There's a 6-week stress reset program that I'm offering. It's got a couple of coaching sessions with me, and it's 6 weeks just specifically on learning how to regulate your nervous system. So I'm going to put the link for that. You could click on that and you could decide if that's for you. You could right through that link, enroll, and then we can get set up. But it's just an easy 6-week thing. And that's one of several ways that I work with people. I work a lot more in depth on, well, how and why do these patterns get started? The 6-week stress reset doesn't even really get into that. It's just, what do I need to do now to reset? But if you want to really look at all of your thinking and your coping mechanisms and breaking some other bigger patterns, not just around stress, we can have a conversation about that too. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put, if you would like to have the 6-week, if you want to click on the details and just see what that entails, here's that link for you right there. And then if you want to have a conversation about some of the other ways that I work with people, so not just around stress, but also breaking all kinds of patterns that are showing up in your relationships, coping patterns, here's the link to my calendar. And it's a free conversation. It doesn't cost anything. It'll be either with myself or Libby, who is my colleague. Either one of us will get on a call with you and talk about that with you. So we would love to just go over any of that. But if you just want to work on your stress and you want a couple of coaching sessions and then just to really learn how to manage your nervous system, just check that out. And you can see if that makes sense for you. Okay. But definitely any questions that you have, I'll go back and I'll look. And if you want to share something about your life, or drop it in the comments, or just connect with me privately, I'd be happy to do that. Okay. Stress is the reason I focus on it, is because stress is the number one block to all the good things we want in life. And again, we feel like, well, this is just how life is in this day and age and in our culture. And that's true to a large degree. But it's also true that you can change your own personal patterns and how you think and how you perceive and respond to what's going on in your life. That's absolutely true as well. So stress is the number one block to health. It's the number one block to connected relationships. It's the number one block to feeling successful and joyful. None of that can happen when you stay in a stressed state and when you're in constant anxiety. So if that resonates with you, go ahead, click on the link or send me a message. Let's chat. I would love to just see what you're up to in your life and what it would look like if you were able to shift that. Okay. All right. I'm sure I'll see you next week. And also in the mornings, if you're new to my world, I do several mornings a week. Grab your cup early in the morning when I first get up, grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or I often have lemon water with ginger in it. And we just do a 5 to 10 minute little conversation on something. So if you're new in my world, you can scroll through wherever you're looking at this right now and find those and come join me again on some other mornings. Okay. All right. Great. Have a good night.